Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Big Ten Quick Talk podcast. If you could do me a favor, really quick, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, as it helps out a metric ton. All right, in this video, I will be broadening my scope and leaving the Big Ten Conference to go predict the whole of the ACC. I'll give you my game-by-game predictions, all within a reasonable time frame. Now, let's get right to it. I almost forgot to mention that we will be doing Notre Dame as well at the end of the video, so you do want to stick around for that as well. So we are going to start off with Cal here, and Cal I have beating UC Davis and then going to Auburn. I think you lose that game. Auburn is too talented, and that game is at home for Auburn. Then Cal beats San Diego State. They lose to Florida State going into the bye week, and then coming off of the bye week, you lose to Miami, lose to Pitt at Pitt. That's a game that could flip-flop. But then you get a shocking upset versus NC State. NC State, they have to travel all the way across the country to play Cal in this one. I think that will affect their play as well. And then Cal here as well will go on a 2-game win streak and beat Oregon State in an interesting non-con right there in the middle of the season. You get your bye week there. You lose to Wake Forest on a Friday night. You have to go out there. I get it. It's off a bye week, but I think Wake Forest will have enough manpower to defeat Cal in that one. Cal, I think, will lose the rest of their games. The only game I can see them winning in this 3-game stretch is Stanford, but alas, I have Stanford winning that one. All right, the next team we will be doing. Oh, and by the way, that gives Cal a record of 4-8. The next team we will be going to is Virginia, the University of Virginia here. Virginia, I have them beating Richmond, and then an interesting game versus Wake Forest. I have them losing that one as they have to travel to Wake Forest. Then you play Maryland, an old rival in the old ACC before Maryland joined the Big Ten. I have them losing that one as well. And then you play Coastal. I think you beat them going into your bye week. And I think coming off the bye week, you have a nice game plan and you beat Boston College. You lose to Louisville the next week. You lose to Clemson. And you lose to North Carolina going into the bye week. Coming off the bye week, I think you beat Pitt in Pittsburgh. I think that will be a big win. But I think you drop your next 3. You lose to Notre Dame. You lose to SMU. And you lose to your rival Virginia Tech, putting them at a record of 4-8, 2-6 in conference. Next team we will be looking at is, if I can find them here, the Stanford. Stanford. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Stanford, I have them losing to TCU. They'll beat Cal Poly in week 2. Strange place for a bye there, but they do get that bye in week 3. And I think coming off the bye, they will lose to Syracuse, lose to Clemson, lose to Virginia Tech, and lose to Notre Dame. But I also think that they lose to SMU. Forgot about that one. I think they come out and they beat Wake Forest. I think they lose to NC State going into that bye. And then, like we already said, I think they will beat Cal. I think they will beat San Jose State. But I do think that they will lose to Louisville at home, putting them at a record of 4-8 as well. Boston College will be the next team that we will be looking at. I think that they lose to Florida State. I think that they will beat Duquesne. I think that they will lose to Missouri. I don't think anyone would argue with that. And then I do have them losing to Michigan State, even though that game is at home. I think Michigan State will have enough manpower this year, and I think they'll be surprisingly good if you watch my Big Ten predictions videos. Next week, I think they will beat Western Kentucky. Like we said, I think they will lose to Virginia. You have that bye week. You play Virginia Tech. I think you lose that game as well. And then you play Louisville on a Friday. I think that you will lose this one as well. Excuse me. Coming off the bye, you play Syracuse. I think you... Oh, excuse me. I wrote that down wrong. I have Boston College beating Louisville at home on a Friday. And then you go to... you play Syracuse at home. I think you lose to Syracuse. You lose to SMU. you beat North Carolina in another shocking upset, and then you end the season by losing to Pitt with a record of 5-7. All right, due to some editing issues, we will just be going rapid fire through my next tier of teams. It will be consistent of 4 teams, starting with Wake Forest. I think they go on a 2-game win streak right out of the gate, beating North Carolina A&T and beating Virginia at home. They lose to Ole Miss. They will, after the bye week, beat the Ragin' Cajuns. They lose at NC State. They lose to Clemson. They come back out. They beat UConn. They lose to Stanford, setting up a bye week going into week 11. They will beat Cal in a hard-fought game on a Friday night, and then I think that they dropped their last 3 games, going 5-7, 2-6 in conference. Tough slate here for the Wake Forest. I think that they definitely could reach a bowl game if they pull out an upset win versus either North Carolina or NC State, possibly, or maybe they beat Duke at home. I think that that is certainly a possibility, but I have them going 5-7. Next team up is the Pitt Panthers. I think they will beat Kent State in week 1. Interesting battle in week 2. They travel to Cincinnati. I think that they will beat Cincinnati, but in week 3, I think that the winning streak will end. They will lose to West Virginia, but they will beat Youngstown State in week 4, setting up a 3-1 bye week. Looking good for the Panthers. I think that they lose to North Carolina at North Carolina. They beat Cal. Still there at that point. They are 4-2. Looking good. Bye week. I think they lose to Syracuse. I think that they lose to SMU at SMU. And then they lose to Virginia, Clemson, and Louisville, setting up a final game in which I think they will beat Boston College. Again, same thing with Pitt here. They could definitely go out and beat Virginia. They could definitely go out and have an upset victory against North Carolina or Syracuse or a team to that nature. But I think that they go 5-7. Next team is Duke. I think Duke will start off pretty well as well. They will beat Elon. They will lose to Northwestern in a tough game. I think Northwestern will out-physical them in that game. They will beat UConn. They will beat Middle Tennessee State. So I think they'll be 3-1 going into the North Carolina game at home. Again, North Carolina is a team that a lot of teams could upset, in my opinion. They're not as deep as last year's team, and the quarterback play will drop off with Drake May being gone, but I still think that North Carolina is well coached, and I think that, anyway, a little bit of a tangent on North Carolina. I think North Carolina will beat Duke. Again, a game that Duke could possibly win. Duke will lose at Georgia Tech. Bye week coming up, they lose versus Florida State on a Friday game at night. This is a game that definitely resembles last year's game where Duke beat the tar out of Clemson, and no one saw it coming. Week 1 at home, night game. Could definitely be the same thing here with Duke and Florida State. I think Duke beats SMU. They will lose to Miami, NC State, and Virginia Tech. They will beat Wake Forest to end their season, going 5-7. So now you can see a definitive line here between the tiers of teams in the ACC. For me, I have Cal, Virginia, Stanford, and Boston College bringing up the rear, all going 4-8. And then I think Wake Forest, Pitt, Duke, Georgia Tech will all be in that next tier of going 5-7, just missing out on a bowl game, but being a small bowl caliber team. All right, so going into this next tier of teams, I have Louisville. I have going 8-4, beating Austin Peay, Jacksonville State, and Georgia Tech to start the season. They will not beat Notre Dame this year. I think that they dropped their first game of the season to Notre Dame. They beat SMU and Virginia to start off the season 5-1. I think that they will lose to Miami at home. They will lose in a surprising fashion to Boston College, and they drop their third straight to Clemson. They reset after the bye week, and they beat Stanford, Pitt, and Kentucky to finish off their season 8-4. The next team we will be looking at is SMU. SMU, criminally underrated by everyone. No one's talking about them. They bring back a ton of starters. They dominated last year, and they have a really good head coach as well. They beat their first 3 non-con games and they drop their fourth one, beating Nevada, Houston Christian, and BYU, losing to TCU. They go on a 3-game losing streak, starting with that TCU game, losing to Florida State and Louisville. They have that bye week. Then they will beat SMU. SMU will beat Stanford, drop a game to Duke, and then they will win 4 straight after that Duke game, finishing the year 5-1 in their last 6. Again, beating Stanford, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, and Cal, going 8-4. They will be like West Virginia going 9-3 last year. No one talks about them, but they did it. So I think this is going to be another case of that. Next team we will be looking at is the North Carolina Tar Heels. I think they start out the season 6-0, beating Minnesota, Charlotte, North Carolina Central, JMU, Duke, and Pitt. Could they lose at Duke? Could they lose at Minnesota? Absolutely. Is the likelihood? I don't think so, which is why I'm predicting North Carolina to start out the season 6-0. They dropped their first game versus Georgia Tech. They have that bye. They beat Virginia 7-1 going into that Florida State game. That means they're doing something right. So they could, in fact, beat Florida State. I'm not ruling out that possibility, but the fact that it is at Florida State, and I think Florida State is just a better team overall. I'm picking Florida State in that one. Then we have North Carolina beating Wake Forest, losing to Boston College, and losing to NC State to end the season 8-4. The final team in this tier is NC State. NC State, I have going 2-2 to start the season, beating La Tech and Western Carolina, losing to Tennessee and Clemson, but they rip off a 3-game win streak versus NIU, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. They lose to Cal. After the bye week, they will beat Stanford and Duke. After another bye week, they will lose to a raucous crowd at Georgia Tech on a Thursday night. And then they will beat North Carolina, their rival, in Week 14 to finish 8-4. So you can see SMU, North Carolina, Louisville, and NC State will all go 8-4 according to yours truly. 5 teams left. And the next one that I will be going after, that we will be talking about here, is Clemson. Clemson, I have losing to Georgia in week 1. You get that bye week. You will beat App State. You will play NC State and Stanford, setting up a critical game if Clemson wants to stay in the playoff hunt. Playing at Florida State, I think they drop that one, rip off another 3-game win streak. Then week 11, traveling to Virginia Tech. Very interesting game for Clemson. I think that Clemson will lose this game, but they will rip off 2 more wins there, and I think that they will beat South Carolina to end their season 9-3. All right, going through it really fast. We're going to go through Virginia Tech. I think that they start out 4-0. I think that they will beat Rutgers, although Rutgers could definitely beat them. Rutgers is going to be a very good team, like I detailed in my Rutgers season preview and the official predictions video for the Big Ten. Already done those. So we're on the ACC ones. I have to keep myself down the ACC path, although I would rather talk about the Big Ten. I'm going to be completely honest. I think that Virginia Tech will lose to Miami, a game that will be very close, but it's a Friday night game. Miami, I think, will come out on top. Then Virginia Tech rips off 3 straight wins. They will lose to Syracuse. They will beat Clemson. They will beat Duke, and they will beat Virginia to end the season. Could they lose to Clemson? Absolutely. Could they beat Syracuse? Absolutely. But I think Virginia Tech goes 10-2. Now, at this point in the video, some of you guys are wondering, where's Syracuse? Let's do them right now. I think Syracuse is going to be one of the better teams in all of college football. I think that they will finish ranked, and I think they will finish 10-2. I think they will beat Ohio, beat Georgia Tech, beat Stanford. They're going to start off the season 5-0. Excuse me. They will drop a game at NC State. They will come out and they will win the rest of their games basically until the Miami game. This is for a spot really in that ACC championship game between Miami and Syracuse. Miami will beat them. Syracuse will be left out of the ACC championship game. Syracuse will get a nice bowl game. Don't think they'll make the college football playoff, but that's because of their weak strength of schedule. So Syracuse, a team that I'm really high on, and I think a team will be very well, be very good. Excuse me. All right, the moment you guys have been waiting for. Will Florida State or Miami be at the top? I'm gonna start with Florida State, and then we don't even really even need to go into Miami at that point. Florida State, you're gonna beat Memphis. You're gonna beat all your non-cons. I think that Florida State will drop this game to Notre Dame. I really think that they will, and they will be 9-2. Excuse me. Computer glitched out for a second and had Charleston Southern beating Florida State. If that happened, the world might end. Okay, so they will be 10-1 overall. This Miami game, really quick, I'm going to go over to Miami and go ahead and say that they will beat Florida, Florida A&M, Ball State, and Southern Florida. So they'll be 11-0. This game decides everything, and I have Miami winning it. I have Miami winning this game. I think Miami is a team that is just ready to go. I think that they will beat Florida State. They will be, 11-1. I forgot to put this down earlier, but I do have Louisville beating Miami. Louisville upset Notre Dame last year. I think they're going to have one upset on their hands, and I think they're going to beat Miami. So Miami is. All right, so now you guys know my full ACC 1 through 17 predictions. I think the ACC is going to be better than some people think. 9 teams I have making a bowl. Miami and Florida State will make the college football playoff, in my opinion. Syracuse and Virginia Tech could at 10-2, but I don't think that they will due to their weak strength of schedule. I am going to throw Notre Dame in here as well. They're not in the ACC, I know, but it is traditional of me to put them with the ACC because they play, out of all the conferences, they play ACC teams the most. I think this is going to put a wrench in the college football playoff because I have Notre Dame going 12-0. I'm sorry. There's a lot of Notre Dame haters out there, but Notre Dame returns somewhat like 8 All-Americans on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball is criminally undervalued. Riley Leonard is a very, very good quarterback. They brought in a 1,000-yard receiver, again, extremely rare from FIU. They have playmakers all over the field. Their defense is going to be a top 3 defense. It is right now, and I think it could be the number 1 overall defense. And I think that they're going to go 12-0. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. To keep this video short, I won't go through every single game with you guys. You can see it on your screen right now. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the video, follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it now. We have taken the show to Twitter, and you can follow me there at Big Ten Quick Talk as well. I'm going to be posting stuff on there that I will not be posting on YouTube. So you want to follow us there for more college football content. You want to be following here on Spotify. Excuse me, not Spotify. Spotify's in the works, guys. Follow us on YouTube here. Just subscribe. That's all I ask you guys to do. And you guys are great about it. We just need more of yous. So if more of you could subscribe, that would be awesome. Like the video, comment your thoughts down below. I know that these takes are always purely subjective. A lot of people have a lot of different takes. I want to hear yours down in the comments below. Who's going to win that Miami-Florida State game? Who's going to win it? And will Notre Dame go 12-0? Do you see them going 12-0 like I do? All right, thanks so much, guys. Tomorrow or even later today, so another reason to be subscribed and turn that bell icon on so that you guys can be alerted when videos drop. Big 12 predictions coming soon. All right, I'll see you guys in that one. See you later.